Hello, Blenders, and welcome to episode number 113 of Real Blend, a podcast that wants to know what a Quibi is. I have a feeling we're going to be able to learn that at some point later today. My name is Sean O'Connell. I am the managing director here at CinemaBlend. This is our continued quarantine isolation episodes, and we're going to have a ton of big movie news. We have a fun guest, and I promise you by the end of this episode, you will have a better idea of what a Quibi is, because...
And we're on video today, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I guess I should point that out, shouldn't I? Providing that everything goes well, you guys will be able to watch all of us together doing this podcast. And so let me introduce immediately the guys. I'm going to start with Jake Hamilton of Fox 32 in Chicago. Hi, Jakey. How are you?
I'm so nervous about this because there's so often that I just zone out whenever both of you are speaking and kind of just do my own thing. And now everyone's going to know, because I usually just wait for Kevin to get done with the puns before we can continue on with the show. So usually that's time when I can check my email and see if my mom has texted me. But now everyone's going to know every little thing that I'm doing.
I think by the end of the episode, too, I want a Daenerys cameo, please. We have to make that happen.
He's sleeping.
Somehow. No, come on, get her up. The other host of the show, obviously, Kevin McCarthy of Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. Hi, Kev.
So he basically jakes a break, right? He jakes a break during the show when I'm talking.
I think technically it's called a Jake break.
Yeah. Jake's breaks.
Jake's break. Now everyone can see what we see when Kevin and I get into a really great topic.
You know,
Jake goes right to the phone.
It's usually me. Also, it's usually me rolling my eyes. And then the extreme versions is usually when I swear.
All right, I want to talk a bit about our guest before we dive into the show. We were able to speak to earlier this week Kris Rey, who has a movie called I Used to Go Here that was supposed to be going to South by Southwest. And a while ago, we didn't really make this public because we were trying to see how it came together, but we wanted to do something special for the filmmakers that were going to be bringing their movies to Austin back when the film festival was still going on. And there were a lot of folks who we spoke to who had their movies going to South by, who said they wanted to wait until their movie had a release date and then do some more press around that time. But Kris was really fired up to talk about her movie. It's a great comedy with Gillian who's
Jacobs.
Anderson? Oh, Jacobs, thank you. I was going to say Anderson, and I'm like, no, that's not right. That's X-Files? Gillian Anderson?
Yeah,
that's
I get those two confused as well. It's okay.
Gillian Jacobs, who is a first-time author whose book is not performing very well, who goes back to her college town and sort of falls back into the routines of being in college. So it was great to speak to her about that movie and some really interesting insights, I thought, in terms of theatrical distribution for indie films. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before we start off with the show in general, a reminder, we have a community page over on Facebook that's very, very active. We have episodes going on YouTube, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this video streaming, is because we've gotten a ton of feedback from people who say they'd much rather watch the show than just listen to us straight up. So we're going to be testing this out and making this work while we're all in isolation. And of course, we're available on all of your favorite podcast apps. So give us a download, give us a subscribe, and recommend us to a friend. I can tell Kevin wants to say something. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to say, are we going to ever do a behind-the-scenes video of Jake's 2-hour makeup and prep for these videos that we do for our show every single day?
I don't see why not. That seems like a great bonus episode. He doesn't wake up looking like that.
I was just watching Jake.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
The only reason
The
only reason I made that joke
I'm in my home studio, as are you, Kevin. We're in our home. Actually, this is kind of perfect timing to start doing this, because we all and Sean, you have one too. We all kind of have these sort of studios because we're all broadcasting from our homes right now. So these shots look infinitely better than they would have if we had started this 2 months ago.
So the only reason I made that joke is because I've been obviously we've all been home, as Jake mentioned, and every day someone on Twitter asks Jake about his hair or his the way he looks in the morning, and he always responds with, it's a ton of product or whatever it is. So I just want to say this is cool that people can actually see what we see and the beauty and the glory that is Jake Hamilton.
Look, it doesn't move. It doesn't move.
I do want to say, as someone who has been lucky enough to wake up in Jake's apartment early in the morning, he does emerge from the bedroom looking very much like that. He is camera ready at all times.
Keep telling me about all the other things that you were watching in the middle of the night whenever I would wake up.
That's why Jake gets paid the huge bucks, as they say at Fox 32. All right, a poll, weekly poll. So we put the weekly poll up to you guys, and it's going to give us some additional homework. And I think Gabe is going to let us do this. The question was, which film should the boys record a commentary track for? So one of the things that we wanted to do while we're in quarantine, and probably, continue doing it once we're able to get back to a normal life, is to record commentary tracks that you guys could then download as almost bonus episodes, and then watch a movie with the three of us talking over the movie and talking about why we love it so much, and maybe even single out some of the ones that we disagree on and have a fun time sort of nitpicking some things that don't work or commenting why certain things don't work. But the best way for us to do it right now is through a Netflix app called Netflix Party, which is a way for multiple people to watch the same movie via a stream. And so we picked things off of Netflix. That's why we got these 4 titles. Each of us picked one. Jake went with Road to Perdition. I picked The Social Network. Kevin went with Bad Boys 2, and we let Gabe throw his 2 cents in, even though Gabe, are you going to be part of the commentary track? Oh, hey, look at that. Gabe's gonna bless us with the commentary.
I just realized really quick that Gabe was telling you to rap, and so we started telling you to rap, but people who are watching this at home didn't see Gabe, so they're going to think that Kevin and I just started telling you to wrap it up. But it originated from Gabe.
What I loved about that moment was he was rapping Sean during the explanation of what the poll was going to be, but when it turned to Gabe being part of it, the rap went away immediately. It was
stretch it.
Rap what?
Stretch
what are you talking about?
So I want you guys to be his simultaneous rap, so when he gives the rap sign for the audience to see.
We'll tell the audience. Yeah.
I need you guys to do that. Anyway, the winner was David Fincher's The Social Network. And so
that was your pick.
Now... That was my pick, yes, and it got 35% of the votes.
I have a question for you. So the next time we do this, do our 3 picks remain, and then you just get a new pick?
I don't see why not. Oh no,
okay. Because I'd like to do Road to Perdition at some point.
Here. I have an idea.
Yes,
I have an idea. So since Sean went first, the next time we do a poll, the 4th slot has to be Forrest Gump, and if that gets chosen, we got to do Forrest Gump.
I mean. That seems fair.
Because Forrest Gump is going to get chosen, and I don't want to watch Forrest Gump with Sean. That's just going to be a miserable experience.
I think
I would make sure that it's a miserable experience for you.
I kind of would like to sit there and hear Sean's thoughts on it during the movie. I think that would be an interesting
If we do
experience.
that, then we have to do a commentary of Endgame, so that way you can wake me up at the end of the movie when it's exciting.
Stop!
And I can say something about it.
You know, I love the fact that movie is trending now. Because people just need joy in their lives during these really dark times.
It's not. No. Let's clarify.
Yeah.
The end is trending. The final action scene when things got good is trending.
Jake,
it's not like the entire 18-hour long movie where nothing happened is trending. That one scene is trending.
Remember when the Russo brothers stuck a landing after 11 films and 23 films in 11 years?
They didn't.
Remember when they did that?
Like?
They didn't direct 23 films.
But do you have
Let's
any
ask
idea
J.J.
how hard
Abrams
that was?
what that's like. J.J. knows how hard it is.
He
didn't do
Rise
it.
of Skywalker.
I know you do. So anyway, the point being that I think we're going to be recording a commentary track for Social Network because you guys chose it. So we're going to pick a
much
day
like Real
in the
Blend,
next
it's about a group of friends that just start tearing each other apart and end up hating each other after working on a project for quite some time.
I would like to personally thank everybody who picked my movie. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart because I've been looking for a reason to go back and revisit the masterpiece from David Fincher. But we can also get to Road to Perdition sometimes.
I don't want to watch Road to Perdition with you anymore.
Dude, I told you I need to catch up with it again, and I haven't, so this is a good opportunity to do so. So we'll figure that out and put it on our social media channels.
I can't get mad at you. You're watching Leftovers for me. I can't get mad at you.
I am, and I'm enjoying it too.
I rewatched Bad Boys for Life last night, and when Marvin shows up again from Bad Boys 2, that might be my favorite callback.
You guys know what today is, right?
Bad Boys.
Oh, the anniversary of the first
25th anniversary of Bad Boys.
That's pretty awesome.
Honestly,
that's the best Bad Boys one.
everybody out there listening to this show, I'm just going to plug, in case you're watching us for the first time, we did interview the directors of Bad Boys for Life. That's available on Real Blend. Just search us on iTunes. But watch Bad Boys 1 and 2. They're both on Netflix, and Bad Boys for Life's on VOD. It's a great trilogy. It's really fun at home, too, to be honest.
Speaking of other directors that we were able to interview, I teased at the beginning of the show that we sat down with Kris Rey, fantastic filmmaker who was bringing her movie called I Used to Go Here to South by Southwest. We wanted to give her a platform to talk more about her filmmaking process, the distribution future of her film, and various other things about behind the scenes of making that comedy. So without further ado, this week's interview with the director of I Used to Go Here, Miss Kris Rey. So I had I Used to Go Here circled on my South by Southwest calendar. I was so excited to go down there in Austin and see it, and I was hoping that you could just sort of explain to our audience who maybe have never been to South by or never even been to another big film festival like that, what a film festival screening can mean to a movie and why fests like that are so important to the industry.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, it's, the movie is an independent film, which means that we paid for the movie ourselves. They were like financiers, investors that like put money into it. And then we go to a festival. Well, there's two reasons you go. One is because you want to share the film with an audience, and that's the best way to do it with a movie at that stage. And then the big, second reason is to try and sell it. So it's also a market. So you're presenting it to an audience, and the hope is that these not just film lovers are in the theater, but in addition, there's press and there are distributors, people that are their whole purpose is to buy independent films and then to market them and put them out to the public, whether that's in theaters or selling it to a streaming service or something like that. So that's what we were really looking forward to is like, we have this really fun movie. We were set to screen it in a theater that seats 500 people. That was, more likely than not going to be a sold out screening full of enthusiastic audience members who would hopefully laugh and have a good time. And we were certainly looking forward to like enjoying that aspect of it. For me, sure, as a director, I've been living with this movie. I started writing the script probably 3 years ago. So I was like, it was all for this one moment. So that was like a big disappointment. Just for me, like, personally, but then in addition to that, we were really nervous because we thought, well, how are we going to sell the film?
Yeah, and so that was a question that we were interested in knowing is this South by Southwest and Amazon combination that just came out yesterday, right, in the news about the online screening festival, and there's a 10, I believe it's like a 10-day festival online. And it looked like filmmakers had the choice of whether or not they could participate in that. So Are you involved in that? Have you been asked to do that? Where are you at with that now?
Yeah, we were asked. I think everybody was asked. And unfortunately, we had to turn down the opportunity as much as I would love to do it. The financiers and the people that have a vested interest in the movie being sold feel rightly that this would possibly hurt our chances of actually selling the film.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, if a distributor, let's say IFC or Sony or someone like that wanted to buy the film, they would decide that they wanted to do a theatrical release. And then they would want the film to be ultimately end up online, right? So it would ultimately go to Netflix or Amazon or one of those streaming services. And they would be afraid that the moment would have passed. So if it's available on Amazon Prime and it's unlimited how many people can watch that, people are excited about the movie, however many 100,000 people watch it for free on Amazon, then later when the movie does start, it's like natural kind of like streaming service life, that it'll be old news. Or if they do a theatrical release, people won't be motivated to go see it in the theater.
Would it also be a piracy thing, or would you be worried about piracy at all?
I don't know. That didn't really come to, I don't really understand piracy. Can they just get stuff off of Amazon Prime?
I don't know how it works either. People record on their phones, but one thing, I guess I just have a quick follow-up to what you were just saying in regards to, so right now in the climate we're in with theaters not being open, theatrical releases obviously are something that people are concerned about, where movies are going to start landing. So does this now want to make you push towards maybe making a deal with like a Netflix or a Hulu or an Amazon to have your movie open there as like a VOD type of service?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have another friend who also had a movie at South by. We've been talking about this a lot. There's so much uncertainty right now. So there's. I mean, maybe by August, the people are able to go see movies in theaters again, in which case that would be it takes a while. There's no way, even if I sold the movie to Netflix tomorrow, that it would be up on Netflix next week. It takes a long time to get everything in order to actually go through the delivery process of a film. So yes, there is part of me that thinks well, if a streaming service wanted to buy it, then maybe we would just haul ass and try and get the movie ready to if my movie premiered right now on Netflix, it's a lot of fucking people are sitting at home right now, ready to watch content. Right.
Yeah.
But part of me also thinks, from a business standpoint, aside from that, I still have this hope that the movie can play in a theater.
That's what I want you to do.
It's this movie is so funny and fun. And it's I'm so heartbroken that I didn't get to see it in a big theater full of people where you really, it's so rare you laugh out loud by yourself on your couch, where you're halfway texting your friends and halfway watching a movie, right? It's I really hope, I'm still holding out hope that I'll be able to watch it in theater at some point.
And it sounds like your financiers are also holding out hope for that, which is a good sign, because if they were maybe wanted to push it out as soon as possible, then the VOD thing, that's good that they're on the same page too, which is good.
Yeah. But then, there's this whole other aspect right now that I'm curious about from a business standpoint, which is that no one's producing any content right now. So everything's been shut down. There's no one making movies. There's no one making TV shows. And it's disrupted the flow of the supply and demand chain for entertainment. So part of me also feels even if the movie is released in August, if things are still, people are still isolating at that point, then that would still be an awesome time to premiere something online, because people will still be hungry for content. And the thing that I want the most is for people to watch the movie. So, I don't think there's any scenario where we're going to hold the film for another year and a half to a time where it's things are definitely going to be in theaters. I think we're going to put it out at a timetable that makes sense.
Well, you mentioned people being able to enjoy your movie and laugh. I'm going to tell you that your movie Swift kicked me in the gut multiple times because personally, I'm in the process of writing my first book.
Oh, wow,
and
cool.
I texted the guys in the middle of the screening and saying, I'm going to abandon my book project.
Oh, shit.
There were just too many far too real moments.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's really good. That's bad for you. Sorry. But it's good for me to hear because I've never written a book. And so I didn't have that personal experience. I'm glad it actually felt real to you.
Well, the best part about it is Kate's in this scenario where it's done and it's out there now. And the scene that literally my wife was in another room. I'm watching it on the TV in our living room. And I let out such a groan that she had to come in and be like, why, what happened? And I was like, well, she just got her New York Times review.
Yeah.
And the montage of those deadly adjectives.
Aimless. Yeah. Boom, boom.
That was my editor, Zach Clark, did that. He really killed it. That part is so good.
So I'm curious, where that comes from. Obviously you're a creative person who's put yourself out there a number of times. Is it just coming from, putting out your art and letting it be judged by other people?
Yeah, I mean, that's so, oh God. I mean, the worst thing, in fact, I even got a review for this movie that I mostly got positive reviews, which has been great. But I got a review that it wasn't negative, but there were like a couple of lines in there that were like, yeah, but what was up with this? And I'm not even going to say it out loud. but what was so hard about reading that is that they were totally spot on. They were right. That they were like they were talking about some aspects of the film that I think, maybe other people that were fans of it would have argued and said, like, that's not true. But me being the creator and being the most like vulnerable was like, yeah, they're right. That part is kind of fucked. Like, I didn't nail that. And I think that's like what's going on with her in that moment too, is that she really knows her book isn't good. And having that confirmed, oh God,
Yeah.
It's horrible.
The gag about the cover too really lands.
Yeah. That is from personal experience. I hate the cover of my last film so bad. Or not the cover, the poster. The poster. I just I just hate it.
And sometimes you just have to let it go, I guess, right? You have to just sort of let that marketing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't. I'm still harboring anger.
There's a line in the film where she talks about this idea of her book being restrained, right? And kind of real life being more restrained, and the story she was telling was more bold. Or I'm sorry, the stories that you see in movies and books are more bold, and she chose to go a more restrained route with her own book. Which didn't connect somehow with the reviews and people. So I was just curious, as a filmmaker, are those lenses that you also look through in regards to when you make a movie? Do you want your films to be more restrained, more bold? Do you think about finding a fine line there? Because I feel like what happens in your film feels like a real story and a real life story, and characters that I actually connect to. It's not a superhero movie, something like that. So do you find like a balance between restrained and bold as a filmmaker?
Oh my God. I mean, that's all like that. All of that sentiment is like totally personal as a creative person, where I struggle. I struggle writing anything that doesn't feel like it could happen in real life.
Interesting.
That's like that's where I draw my stories from. And if something doesn't feel realistic, I just can't seem to write it. And that's part of what people like about my movies, is that they do feel real. They're really grounded. And this one is more of a stretch than anything else I've done, because there's sort of some wacky parts and funny characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But even in that realm, they're still pretty grounded, considering. But I like stuff that's crazier than that. I like stuff that's bolder, and I respect it. And I want to stretch myself creatively toward that, but I just can't. And part of it is maybe I'm just unpracticed. And part of it, I think, is that I have a fear of doing that. It's like much easier, I think, to make something that feels more real, because you can always, defend it with what is actually happening, or what's happened to you or people whereas like, I don't know. Yeah, I just struggle with that myself. So I think
I found that to be a really interesting dynamic that I just never really thought about it like that, and it made me think about what films seem more restrained and what films seem more bold, and maybe what films find that center ground. So thank you for answering that. I just thought that was a very interesting line.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Kris, I just think that the character of Kate is so perfectly tailored to Gillian. Because there are moments where, when she regresses a little bit and falls back into the college routine, if it's another actress, you almost don't believe it, right? Like you'd be like, oh, she's too far removed from this scenario. Yeah. I can't buy that. Did Kate on paper change after you cast her, or were you just so lucky to have the two seamlessly mold together?
I want to say definitely I was lucky. I think Gillian is just like, she's just like, Gillian is really, she's just really a fucking great actress. Yeah. She's really, really good. and then I think, you know, she got attached early enough that as I went back, I think I had like a year where she was attached to play the role before we actually shot.
Okay.
So when I went back and did drafts and rejiggered things, I didn't change anything crazy, but having her in my mind was really useful. And then in addition to that, when we got to set and started working, Gillian definitely had influence over lines of dialogue or, you know, moments that happened. We would talk at length about, like, you know, would Kate do this? And she would definitely weigh in, and decisions were certainly made, like, based on her input.
Mm-hmm. The Bradley Cooper bit is it's so deliberate, obviously, because the name is so recognizable. And there's even a moment where Jorma even says, I just go by Brad now, because I would assume that within the world of your movie, Bradley Cooper also exists.
Yeah, totally.
So I was curious where that came about. Like, why was that it was so specific? It's so really funny. I just want to know why.
It's like, I mean, I don't know if my answer is going to be satisfying or not. It's because I wanted that character. When I was like, came up with that idea of her just like hooking up with this guy that she had like known when she was in school. You know, there's always those people that just like stick around.
Yeah.
The college and I think like that's what she is kind of tempted to do. So I loved that she was like faced with someone that's actually made that decision and could see, like, you know, they seem cool at first and attractive and like whatever. And then she can see that they're just like a fucking skis ball. Right. And I thought, I really want this character to be one of those friends, one of those people that, you know, that no matter how well you know them, you call them by your first and last name.
Right.
Because I have like friends that I always call by their first and last name, you know? And I was thinking about, sometimes I get stuck on names, and I was just like, all I could think of was Bradley Cooper. And I knew that Bradley Cooper, I couldn't use it because he's a real famous person. So I was like, I can't use Bradley Cooper, but I just put it in as a placeholder. And then after time, I was like, fuck it. Bradley Cooper's such a commonplace name. It's not like I named him Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, you know? It's
Tom
like,
Cruise.
There's probably a million Bradley Coopers out there. It's just like Bradley and Cooper are such common names.
Yeah.
So
does he know about this?
I have no idea. Probably not.
Wait a second. So once the movie comes out and that bit becomes like a thing, like, are you like, is there a worry about using the name at all? Or
No,
legally
because
you're okay?
Legally we're okay because it's such a common name. And all they care about legally is there a Bradley Cooper? Is there like a well-known Bradley Cooper in Carbondale, Illinois, which is where the movie takes place?
Oh, wow.
So, and they couldn't find one, so we cleared it. But there's other things that like, you know, like you coming up with like a title of a book. I think our original title for her book was Seasons Pass. And what we ended up with was Seasons Past, in past tense, PASSED, because Seasons Past is already some like self-published young adult novel that is like, it's not a famous series, but it's like they found it on Amazon. And so they were like, you can't use it. But Bradley Cooper cleared.
that might be my favorite clearing of a name I've ever heard. Yeah. It's just so random.
And I was so happy that Jorma got to play him.
And we were discussing offline earlier about how he has great line delivery. But go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
There's another great part in the movie too, a very significant part that you put yourself in. And I'm curious why a director casts herself as the other woman on social media.
Here's why, which is that a totally practical reason, which is that I was like, okay, we got to shoot this on Sunday. And in my mind, I was like, this is like it's just such a small thing. Like, I'm not going to go through the process of like casting someone, you know, and paying them. So we were just like trying to scrimp and save however much we could. And it would have cost us $250 to like pay someone to be this person. And the guy who is Michael, her ex, his voice is my friend Alex Ross Perry, who's another filmmaker.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you know who that is. So that's his voice. And then his picture of him is my first AD's husband, Declan. So I was like, okay, I know Declan really well. We'll just pretend to be a couple. And it just was like the easiest thing to do.
A follow-up on what Sean asked, I'm only going to follow up because I'm curious to know now. Did you just have a day of shooting just Instagram pictures? To get those photos?
So like I said, Declan's husband is my first AD, Morgan. And we were going on location scouts, and we went, and Declan was coming along. So we went to go check out the lake in Wisconsin that we shot all the lake stuff at. So we drove to Wisconsin, and Declan was just there. So we were like, let's shoot all of the Instagram pictures.
That was good.
So it was like all just for ease, but it worked out. I didn't like think about the fact that she was going to like zoom in on my face. So I'm like very present.
Yes, it's hard not to recognize you.
There was a line in this movie where I think the comedic timing was so perfect, and it's not the line I mentioned earlier. It's just the guy saying, "My name is Animal," and the way he says it is so dry and so like matter of fact, like this is just normal. My name is Animal, and like the way you cut it is perfect. Like the editing is perfect because it's almost like you don't even let it linger. He just says it, we move on. And I was just curious, like what that looks like for you as a writer, and then the day you shoot it, do you know it's going to play that quickly in the edit, or do you find that comedy in the edit?
Oh my God, I wish my editor were here to have this interview with me because he did so much work on that. Yeah, the delivery, I mean, Forrest Goodluck, who plays Animal, is just like so fucking good. He's so good, and I just could go on and on about what a good actor he is. He gave me such great naturalistic performances. But then in the script, I wrote the dialogue, Animal, my name's Animal. And then in parentheses, I wrote normal name. So it was like he had the direction. He had the direction of just like knowing that this guy doesn't even think it's weird.
He says it so perfectly.
I know, he's so great. But then actually the scene went on. Like she in the script, and we shot it like this. Gillian says, "Wait, did you say Animal?" And then we cut back to him and he goes, "Yeah." And for some reason we just couldn't get the time. The comedy just like wasn't there. So we like worked on that scene and ended up cutting that out. So there's just like a nod from Gillian. and that I'm so glad it hit for you guys. I mean, this is what it is so sad about not having seen the movie with an audience is like, You're not sure if this stuff lands until you watch it with a big crowd of people. So it's great to hear that it landed for you.
I don't know why that just stuck out to me. I was taking notes. And I wrote down, "My name is Animal." I have to ask about that. It was so random, but I feel like the edit was what made it like perfect,
That's so cool.
I know we're running out of time. I want to go big picture on the last one. It just seems too surreal to me that you have someone whose story is catapulted by a book tour being canceled, like she's anticipating.
Isn't that weird?
It's just so bizarre, So I'm just curious, like, as this is happening to you and, South by is fading away, and were you able to take any lessons away from what you wrote about Kate's journey and apply it to?
I actually didn't make the connection until I was getting interviewed by the Chicago Tribune, and she made that connection. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Yeah. Her book tour gets canceled and everything. I would love to run away right now to a college town and have any kind of experience to fill the void of my movie's premiere being canceled. But alas, I just have to come to terms with it emotionally by myself in my house.
Where would be your college to run away to? What's your...
Well, it would be that one, Southern Illinois University, which is where I went to school and where the movie is based in Carbondale, Illinois. So yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting watching it, and I know we had to let you go, but it was interesting watching the movie. Just more of a comment, not a question. I imagine what it would be like to go back to school and kind of like would I want to put myself into that lifestyle? Would I like it? Like I don't know. And it's a weird thing because when you're in college, it's strange. It actually makes you think a lot about your own self, what you would do.
Yeah. And I think it's strange at this age, I'm assuming you guys are around the same age as me. It's like, you consider yourself kind of cool still, and young.
I'm not an adult yet. You kidding me?
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, I could vibe. Like, college kids would love me. They would think I was so cool. I could vibe at a party. They would probably all think I was awesome. And you can understand. You can relate to the temptation of that for sure.
Yeah, I wonder, would I be noticeable at a party? I'm 35, so I don't know if I can pull it off. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so old that the scene I'm most connected with is when she finally got breakfast. This is so rewarding. She's finally, that breakfast looked amazing.
Breakfast looked so good. And breakfast.
And oddly enough, that's the scene he connected to. The scene I connected to the most was the snapping of the photo with the flash. That's happened to me so many times.
Oh, it's happened to me too. That's why
it's the most embarrassing thing ever when someone catches your flash and I love that she that was exactly my reaction. I was like, oh, my phone's just randomly flashing.
Well, Kris, tell everybody where they can follow the progress of the film. So once you get a distribution deal.
Oh my God, I don't know. They could probably follow me on Instagram. My name is Kris Rey. Kris Rey on Instagram, and they can just follow me, and I'm posting about the movie. We don't have like a website or anything like that.
Okay. Well, as soon as we hear some more news about distribution as well too, we'll be happy to pass it along to our
listeners. Great.
So
cool.
Thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, we really appreciate it. We want to thank Kris Rey for coming on the show and talking to us about her movie. Obviously, as soon as we have details about when it's going to be coming to theaters or a streaming service, we will share those with you guys. So speaking about uncertainty about what's going to theaters and streaming services, not a lot of news around this. It kind of happened and then we moved on. Whereas when Universal put Trolls World Tour onto streaming or made it available
comes out
on VOD,
this week.
Yeah, and it was like a huge seismic event, where a movie skipped the theatrical release and went right to video. Yet Disney's doing the exact same thing with Artemis Fowl. It's the first movie, everyone was talking about Mulan or Black Widow or either of them going to make the jump to Disney Plus. Neither of them are. They actually have new release dates. But instead, Artemis Fowl, which is a literary adaptation done by Kenneth Branagh, that is going to go straight to Disney Plus. Skip its theatrical. So I think that's as huge of a move as Universal doing Trolls. I mean, Jake, you say that, but it's still a major theater skipping its theatrical window and going to a streaming service.
All Disney did was avoid the press of a $100 million movie that was about to bomb at the box office. Like, that movie was going to open at the end of May, and it was $100 million, and I don't know anybody that was excited about it. All they did was end up looking like the good guy by putting it on their streaming service, when in actuality, they just avoided a lot of really, really bad press.
I also feel like Trolls World Tour. I don't. Did that really have? I mean, again, we were far enough out when it got pushed.
Didn't we say everything we needed to say with the first Trolls?
Yeah, I just really found that Trolls was that was probably an easier move, right? Because I don't know how well Trolls 2 would have done. I know Trolls 1 did well, but I just didn't find or feel like a need for a Trolls 2. So maybe it was to Jake's point about the Disney movie. If you're dealing with a film that you maybe might have not done tons of money at the box office and could do better at home, maybe that's the way to strategize.
I don't know. I just see it as a precedent. It's setting a precedent that a major studio is moving a film that was going to go to theaters. And I admit, you're right. I mean, I agree with you in the fact that Artemis Fowl probably wasn't going to break the bank, and it's a safer movie to them to move to Disney Plus. But
there's a reason why they're not moving.
But
they're not moving Black Widow. They're not moving these major tent poles because they to Jake's point. Why do you choose that film to go to VOD? Because like Jake said, it's probably the smartest one of the bunch to put on VOD that would not reflect poorly on the studio. I really think so. Like if they moved Black Widow tomorrow, that would be
that's a seismic
problem.
shift. Like that's when we start talking about, wait, what is about to happen?
Right.
But yeah, I really don't, unless we're talking about a movie that was going to open 50 million. Like I would even be amazed if somehow A Quiet Place Part 2 had ended up on VOD. Like that's when I would go, okay, maybe we're really venturing into something. But Artemis
that was
Fowl
tracking at like 60, right?
Yeah. But Artemis Fowl and Trolls 2, that doesn't get my blood pressure up.
Yeah,
so
I
you're
think
saying
Quiet
they were
Place.
Trying to. I'm sorry.
I just think the interesting thing about Quiet Place is that you're with that film being indefinitely postponed. I wonder how early they had that September 4th date locked in. Do you think they knew it was September 4th when they delayed it and just didn't announce it?
No.
Well, you think they found it within the delay?
I mean, keep in mind, whenever they delayed it, we didn't really have, not that we have now, but we didn't really have any kind of a grasp on what the timeline for this whole deal was going to be. So I still think that they're continuously figuring things out. I think that there are movies that have received new dates that are going to end up being pushed back as we continue to, evolve our understanding of what this timeline is going to be.
Right,
well,
and that goes into that question, yeah.
Yeah, so Wonder Woman claimed an August date. It didn't jump back as far as some of the other ones that moved all the way to 2021 to be safe. Morbius went to 2021. F9 went to 2021 just to let everything sort of clear out. But with Wonder Woman taking August, a bunch of September ones. We talked about Quiet Place going in September. Candyman delayed till September 25th. A few of them kept their, like Venom 2 still has an October release date. But I'll bring this topic up now and I'll let you guys go off, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Marvel slate. Jake, you're fairly convinced that some of these July titles that are holding out hope, and by holding on to their July titles, they're largely saying the theaters probably will open in June and we'll get a couple of weeks to ramp back up. That the July slate could stay where it is. Wait, what went at the end of July? Mulan went at the end of July, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't think Mulan or Tenet? Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's exactly my point, which is we're not talking about the world getting back to normal in July, which it may very well do that. What we're talking about in order to pull off a massive release for movies like that, like movies that are what, $150, $200 million budgets, we're talking about the world needing to go back to normal a month plus in advance. So we're talking about the world needing to start heading back into normalcy end of May, beginning of June, to kind of, if anything, to allow movie theaters, not just movie theaters, but to allow movie theaters to ramp back up and all progressively start having a couple of weeks to kind of warm up and kind of start trying to lure people back into theaters, but then also allowing us as a society and our economy to kind of get the wheels turning again, to kind of start getting all of us back into normalcy. And you have to think about, whenever you're releasing a movie that is a $200 million gamble, essentially, you want to ensure that the circumstances are such so that the maximum number of people can go see your movie. And I feel like if I'm Warner Brothers or I'm Disney, and right now, I mean, we have experts, we have scientists who are basically saying, we don't know. Like, we don't, like, I know everyone wants a definitive light at the end of the tunnel. They want a date as to when this is going to be over, but people are saying we don't know. And so if you've got this $200 million blockbuster, you're not going to put it out on an if. We're like, we think people are going to be ready to go. Like, you want to be entirely sure that people are ready to go. Like, not only am I unsure about the July release dates for Tenet and Mulan, I'm quite honestly unsure about that August release date for Wonder Woman. Come September, I'm feeling pretty confident. And also those movies have a lot less to lose. Like, I mean, Candyman and Quiet Place are not Mulan and Tenet. We're talking two completely different games. And I just think that the timeline in which we, as moviegoers, movie theaters, and economy, as a society, need to be back, greased wheels, back to normal. I think the timeline is too soon to have a major movie drop by the end of July.
Kev, thoughts?
I mean, this is a more of a discussion about emotion versus logic. So in regards to me specifically, I think I'm just looking at this from a super optimistic standpoint, in the sense of not obviously we all want theaters to come back to the way they were. We spoke to Jeffrey Katzenberg yesterday, Jake and I did, for Quibi, and he sees definitely a future for the movie business, doesn't know what it's going to be. But with this particular situation, with the August move to Wonder Woman from June to August, and then the Mulan move from March to July, when you start putting things within that July-August window, you're starting to maybe look at a light at the end of the tunnel kind of situation, right? Where you start thinking hopefully about maybe whether or not we could be, what if we're through the end of April, we're great in the mid-May. Again, I have no idea the science. And that's what I'm saying. Like with Jake, you're saying like it could be August or September. That's also is just as much of a guess as July and August would be, I would argue, because we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. Obviously there are guesses as to when things are going to peak and when things are not going to peak, and different waves that are going to come. So I don't know. We saw China, right? They closed their theaters, they reopened their theaters, and then they closed them again. So I have no idea if that's going to happen for us. So I think, to Jake's point, they're placing these films in these placeholders because maybe they're grabbing those dates just in case we're able to reopen. The other side of it would be, do they truly see a possibility that theaters could reopen by placing Mulan on July 24th?
They don't see anything though. Like they're watching the same news we are. It's not like they have an insight as to like what's going on. In the world.
Let me throw something out there too, just as a thought, because you hear certain politicians who talk about like we have to get the economy going again. We have to open back up regardless, right? I think some of these businesses are going to get a breaking point financially, where they just are going to have to open, and let people kind of come if they want to come. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll see an easing off of the strictest social restrictions. And it'll allow some businesses to open. I don't know when, but it almost, and each week it's a different scenario. It feels like we're faced with a different, so you're talking 2 months from now. If we get through April and May, hypothetically.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
April and May means you could start ramping things up into June and July. I'm going to bring up AMC Theaters as an example. Like that guy's, their CEO went on the news yesterday and said they're just bleeding cash.
Yeah.
And unless they get financial help, they're not going to be around. So I almost feel like they're going to have to figure out a way to just open so they can earn some money. But I'm not quite sure.
How can you say just open when you have like every major city in the country with their governors and their mayors telling people to stay home? You can't say, well, I'm a movie theater, I need money, so like I'm just going to open up. And I mean, even then, you could open up all you want to. Like the AMC down the street from me could open up tomorrow. There's still no movies. There's no movies for them to play.
I guess my idea of a movie theater is no different than a restaurant. I think it's a crowd of people in a enclosed space, and people more so in a restaurant. You're talking, your particles are flying out of your mouth. Obviously that happens when you're in a movie theater, chewing and talking to your friends as well. But so I guess if you're thinking that movie theaters aren't going to be open until August or September, that means restaurants as well. So to Sean's point, I would argue that, again, this is just I'm just comparing the two because they're crowded spaces.
It's different though. That's apples and oranges.
Because restaurants can do takeout. That's the thing that it helps them, that they can do a takeout and do some partial business.
I'm talking about opening restaurants. Like
but like the sushi place down from me could open tomorrow and like be like black and white and be good to go and turn on the lights and they can start serving sushi. The AMC turns on their lights tomorrow. What are they going to play? Like, I don't think it's a similar comparison between theaters and restaurants.
Oh no,
because a restaurant.
I'm not saying wait. No. You're comparing operations. I'm comparing crowds. You're comparing the operations of a restaurant. I'm comparing the people that are in the restaurant and the movie theaters. The only point I want to make, and this is the last thing I'll say, just going back to what I said at the beginning of the discussion. My opinion of this comes more from an emotional standpoint because I love that Tenet hasn't moved. I love that Tenet is staying in place on July 17th at this moment. Mulan moving to the 24th of July gives me some hope that Tenet might stay there if Disney somehow thinks Mulan might open. To Jake's point, yes, it's unknown. I do not know if it's going to happen. I think I'm hopeful because I would love to see a day where people return to the movie theaters to Chris Nolan's Tenet. I think that would be one of the coolest stories ever. Him returning back. The guy that wants to save cinemas, that redesigned the entire cinematic experience, and this is the guy that brings us home.
Okay,
I'm
turning
hopeful,
off your emotion, turning off your heart for a second, and turning on the logic side of Kevin McCarthy.
Right.
Logically, do you think that Tenet stays at July 17th?
See,
And,
Sean
and,
made
and is this worth a bet?
To be honest with you, Sean made an interesting point just now. Why couldn't April and May completely turn us around, and then we go into June? That gives you a month and a half to ramp up Tenet press.
It's optimistic.
How is that not possible?
Do you know why I think that's not possible? Because right outside my window, I could see the beachfront of Chicago, Illinois, and it's a 70-degree day, and there are crowds of people walking around. That's why I think it's not possible.
For real?
All right. Well, first of all, if we're going to get into, I know we're not going to go down this path, but talking about the social distancing. Yeah, exactly. But the social distancing aspect of things. Listen, there are tons of stories out there that would say, Kevin, you are wrong. There's no chance the movie's going to open up on July 17th. And if I'm a betting man, I'm putting money on it. I'm probably going down Jake's route, but I don't want to put that into the air. I want to keep it in my head that Tenet is what brings us back in 70mm IMAX. I promise you this, and I'll say this on the show. If Tenet opens on July 17th, I will see Tenet 10 times in 70mm IMAX and prove it.
Kevin, I love that what I'm about to say, you finally understand what it means. I feel like you're the John Locke of this show, and I'm the Jack Shepherd.
Yeah.
I'm the man of science, and you're the man of faith.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right,
I get Jake's point, though. I get it.
I want to get to some movement at the theaters that really is important to me. Maybe not so much to you guys, but the Marvel slate. The Marvel slate is completely rejiggered now at this point. Everything just moved backwards. And so the new dates that are available, thank you. Black Widow takes the Eternals spot and everything moves backwards from that point on. I just want to talk about some of the ramifications of it because it puts some movies in weird positions. I want to get you guys' opinions on this. Obviously, we won't have a Marvel movie from Spider-Man Far From Home, which was July.
Isn't that crazy that that's the last Marvel movie that we've seen?
Yes, and now the next one arriving will be Black Widow in November 6th. So a year and a half between their slate. And they were ramped up to a point where they were going to start doing 3 a year. And now, because of everything that's happening, they're far delayed. Black Widow makes sense in November. I think Black Widow will be fine in November. The Eternals as a new origin story-ish even kind of works in this February 12th slot, which it now has. Shang-Chi moves to May 7th, 2021, and that to me is very unusual. This is a brand new hero that nobody really knows, no household recognition name to them, and that's theoretically, if everything holds, going to be the summer blockbuster kickoff slot, which goes to large
I guess you could argue the same
franchises.
thing for Guardians, though, but that was August.
Sure, yeah, it was, but I thought the May kickoff slot should be at Guardians 3, or it was supposed to be Doctor Strange 2. It was supposed to, a long time ago before Disney fired James Gunn. But even when it was Doctor Strange 2, that made a little bit of sense. It was a sequel to a property that people kind of understood. So Shang-Chi is going to kick off the summer blockbuster season in 2021. That moves Doctor Strange 2 back to November. Thor Love and Thunder follows it. And now they've confirmed Black Panther 2 and Captain Marvel 2. So
is
that's
there any chance that
Shang-Chi
shows up in any of the earlier films, much like how Black Panther showed up in Civil War to kind of give a soft
probably
introduction?
in a
Is
stinger.
there any chance that they would now maybe not even the stinger, but in a low key role like Black Panther was in Civil War, just to kind of introduce who he is to people?
Definitely not in Black Widow, because I'm pretty sure that's done.
Right.
But Eternals now has the ability to go back and reshoot some stuff or add some stuff.
Right.
So yes, there's a very real possibility that they introduce the character in that way.
To Jake's point back and regarding what the unknown of the scenario that we're in, a lot of these movies you're talking about were either in pre-production, production, whatever. Some of these films, obviously. Depending on how long this lasts, if this keeps going, how does that affect the slate? I mean, I would imagine Falcon and the Winter Soldier probably has story points that factor into what happens in Black Widow.
Yeah.
I would imagine that WandaVision has things. I mean, I don't understand how Kevin Feige's even. I'm envisioning that Christopher Nolan chalkboard when he's explaining Inception or whatever it was, or Memento or something. I can't remember what it was, but that's how Feige's head must look.
I have a lot of confidence in Kevin Feige, but I guarantee you he's having sleepless nights right now.
Oh, yeah.
He is balancing a connected universe, and you're right, it's the Disney Plus shows. Falcon and the Winter Soldier were going to have an impact on movies like The Eternals, and I think even Shang-Chi. WandaVision was supposed to feed directly into Doctor Strange, and now that's not coming till November of next year. So I wonder if those get delayed, which is weird because Disney Plus is struggling as it is, and they need original content. So you think they'd want to rush those shows into theaters, but
they're not
it almost
done.
feels like, well, they're not done. And it almost, so when I threw out, Jake, earlier that like theaters need to figure out a way to just open, you're right. Theoretically, they can't do that because they don't have product to show. But in a similar way that like you hear discussions at the NBA and the MLB are discussing like, how can we get games going? You know,
Phoenix,
how can we do an NBA playoffs or some such? I think movie studios and television studios are also having discussions of just like, how can we ramp back up? How can we get production going again? Because it's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of people who are losing money right now as those studios are closed down and not filming.
The answer is drive-ins.
Yeah,
think about it.
No, I mean creation of movies. Like
I know.
A studio.
But that could be a good way for maybe to roll out for a little bit, like just have drive-ins make a comeback and you watch.
But there are less than 350 drive-ins like in the country.
Yeah,
alone. Like
you're so
like
negative.
It could be a slow way to roll it out.
All these
I'm a journalist.
Kevin has great ideas.
Yeah,
Kevin has great ideas.
I have facts.
To Jake's point.
I have.
To Jake's point, even though he's wrong about
facts, you want to be that guy right now?
Even though he's wrong about the shark and Jaws, I mean, generally he is giving information that is factual. I'm just giving an emotional aspect.
I'd like to be on the record that I am choosing to walk away. I'm choosing to walk away.
Give me
you know
facts.
What? Hey, Sean. Jake didn't take the shark bait. Get it?
It's pretty good, Kev.
Shark bait, right?
Is it? Is it?
Give me facts. Give me facts on Quibi. I want to know what Quibi is. I keep hearing the term Quibi. I see some sites reviewing Quibi content. I literally, as the old man on this podcast, have no clue what this is. Do I need to know, or is it a flash in the pan that's going to go away in a couple of months?
It's basically like a short form piece of media that lives specifically on your phone or tablet. It does not work on your computer, or I guess on your television screens. They prefer it to be on a cell phone. Okay. I guess it does. It will download it a tablet, but I guess the full experience is more on the phone with the flipping back and forth. And essentially, it's 10 minutes or less. So every single bit in the actual program, if it's a series of shows, like for example, Chance the Rapper, Jake, I know he has the Punk'd show, and his first episode is 6 minutes. So I think it's 10 minutes or less for every episode, and a bunch of celebrities are involved. Jennifer Lopez has a show on there called Thanks a Million, which is more of like a pay it forward show where celebrities give $100,000 to someone who had an impact on their lives, and that person then gives half of that to somebody who had an impact on their life, kind of more of a pay it forward type of idea. Will Smith has a comedy series. I think it's called The Joker. And I think it's going to be 16 episodes hosted by him with comedians in that short format. And then Spielberg, obviously. The Spielberg After Dark
explain
series
this. The thing that you told me about
blows my mind.
I'm not going to watch it, but it sounds pretty cool.
You're not going to watch it? Why?
Because I'm not going to sit here and stare at my phone for 10 minutes at a time.
You already do that all day.
This seems to speak against everything that you love as a filmmaker or storyteller, though.
I will tell you exactly why my thought process is the opposite. So in this particular case, they're making content that's designed for your phone consumption. So for example, they're not making a 2-hour Dunkirk and putting it on your cell phone to watch on Quibi. They're giving you 6 or 7 minute bursts of content that you can watch in between your day. So let's say you're eating lunch, you want to watch 2 episodes of Chance the Rapper's show. And I'm not trying to make this an ad for Quibi. I just don't think it's anything like the theatrical experience versus the home experience. This is a 10-minute cell phone based complete window.
Like a TikTok. It's just like a TikTok.
Well, so for example, Spielberg's show After Dark. This sounds awesome. Spielberg's show, they're creating a technology in the app that allows his show to only play at night on your phone. So when the sun comes up, the show will disappear, then reappear once the sun goes down. And so Spielberg, imagines you in your bed at night about to go to sleep, right? And just on your phone, and you watch a 6 or 7 minute episode of After Dark. But I mean, again, I don't want to get too geeky, because I want Jake to speak on it too, because he spoke to Katzenberg as well. But one of the things that I found interesting about it was the vertical and horizontal shifting of and I just think that's one of the most incredible things, because it's so frustrating when you try to watch a video that was shot vertically. Then you try to turn it, and you get the black bars in the left and right. And the idea of them streaming 2 videos simultaneously that you can seamlessly transition back and forth from is just incredible to me. It's almost like you get two versions of the shot. So for example, if Chance the Rapper is in the middle of a Punk'd episode and you're watching him vertically, you can see his head and his shirt and his pants or whatever. But if you turn it this way, you get more of the actual, like, you know, I guess the X to Y axis, I guess what you would call it, left to right of the screen. So the more widescreen aspect of it. So to me, it's a super convenient experience. I think it's cool that filmmakers are utilizing certain aspects of it to play into their storytelling. And to that point about whether or not it speaks against my love for cinema, it is a cell phone based app that is designed for that type of consumption. So that's why I don't have a problem with it. If Spielberg wants to put a mini series or called After Dark on my phone that I can watch in my bed, that I can turn back and forth and watch in different aspect ratios.
Okay, what's his role in it though? Just producer? He's producer.
No, I think he created the show and wrote it. I want to say, I don't know if he's directing it, but I know Guillermo del Toro is doing a horror series. Okay. Someone double check on the Spielberg part of it, but it's his series. So I know he created it. I want to say he wrote it. It sounds awesome. I just think that it's a clever app. But again, it goes to that thing. This is our chance
to get at home with Nolan, Kev.
Yeah.
If Nolan did a series where he just recorded himself at home.
But
Kevin and I are fascinated with the concept of Christopher Nolan in his house. Just doing things like making breakfast.
Yeah.
And
Sean and I had
his kids.
But he does things in a different order. So he makes breakfast at like 3:00 in the afternoon. Like the time's all messed up.
The other day, Sean and I think we had just finished interviewing Kris Rey for that movie, and Gabe had hung up, and I think Jake, you were dealing with something. That was pretty funny. So we did the interview, and then we got off, and then Sean and I were on a split screen having like a 5-minute discussion, asking the question of what we think Nolan does at home on a daily basis. Like, could you imagine Nolan disciplining his children, doing homework? I can't see it. Because he's just
sweatpants and a t-shirt.
He's Christopher Nolan. I can't see him like being.
And what do you think? Like when his kids are being brats and they like want to run upstairs and like slam their door to like, what do you think they yell? Like, "You've never won an Oscar!" And then they like slam the door.
I said, could you just imagine like you have dinner with Christopher Nolan every night? Like you just get to sit down and like have dinner with Nolan. Although for him, he's dad.
This is a question that I think would be interesting. And Sean, you as a father, I know Gabe's wrapping us up, but just real fast because I think this is an interesting question. If you are Christopher Nolan's child and you are a fan of your dad's work, can you geek out with him about it?
I'm telling you, as just from speaking from experience, they probably are not fans of his work.
Wait, how could you not be a fan of Interstellar? Like,
they don't care.
You aren't.
I would say you're asking the wrong guy that question.
They are so bored listening to their father talk about it.
There is no way that Christopher Nolan's kids don't appreciate Dark Knight. There's no way they don't appreciate it.
That's very possible.
Their dad directed Dark Knight.
You spoke to Katzenberg also. What did you take away about Quibi?
I gotta be honest with you, man. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is an app that we're asking people to pay for. And I just
costs money?
I mean, you get a 90-day free subscription, and then you start
$4.99
paying
a month.
For it.
Yeah. It's like Spotify.
I mean, we're talking about like we live in the wild west of streaming apps, and I got to be honest with you. Like, yes, Kevin, you're right. Whenever I said like, oh, I don't really want to watch a 10-minute long video on my phone, and you're like, oh, you're on your phone all the time, but it's different. It's one like when I'm on my phone, like texting you guys or doing whatever. I'm also like running around doing different things. Very rarely do I stop in my day and watch. I mean, even if I pull up like a YouTube video and it's like 7 minutes long. Part of me goes like, oh God, like 7 minutes. Like that's a long time.
So Sean, all those reaction videos, Jake just goes right to the end.
No, what I do, do you want to know what I do for those? I turn them on while I'm getting ready for work in the morning, while I'm like brushing my teeth and doing my hair and put on my makeup and everything. That's what I watch as Sean's reaction videos. That being said, I don't think at the end of the day that honestly, and Kevin, I love how excited you are. I don't think the average person out there gives two shits that you can do this and then do that. I don't think people care.
I think it's cool.
I know you think that's cool, but I don't think people care. And at the end of the day, when the 90-day like free trial is up, I don't think, if we're talking about Hulu, which is $5.99 a month, or something like Quibi, which is $4.99 a month, and people have to really start picking and choosing what they want, I don't see someone going, oh, I'd rather choose Quibi.
See, this comes down to content. So you're telling me that 3 months from now, this is a $4.99 service.
I don't think we're talking about this 3 months from now.
Hold on. So three months go by. We're out of the free trial period. and they released the Spielberg series. Lindelof does a daily show about Lost for every episode. Harrison Ford's on there reading bedtime stories. No, I know. But I'm saying these are things that this app can do. Spielberg can make a television series. Lindelof could get on there and do Lost 10-minute recaps for every episode. They can do that. They can if they want. What I'm saying is, if
anybody could do. Like Hulu could do that. Netflix. You're no.
I know.
You're picking
if the content was right, you would take it.
You're specifically picking things that are targeting me, but at the end of the day, anybody could do anything that they wanted to. What it boils down to is, I don't think people care enough to stop and get it all on their phone. I don't think the phone bit is as appealing. In fact, whenever we were learning about it, I kept thinking oh, am I going to get it on my TV? And it's like, no, it's a phone thing. And I thought, well, I care less now. Like I don't care to just watch videos on my phone. I want to be able to stop at the end of the day and turn Better Call Saul on my TV.
Last question for you, Jake. Tell me the reason why you got Disney Plus. Tell me the reason why you got it.
Hold on. You got it. He low-key shades Disney Plus every chance he gets.
Who?
Jake does. I live for those tweets. Right, Disney Plus will announce something and Jake will be like, why did I pay it?
What, 6 months? I paid for 6 months!
Dude, I did 3 years.
Oh. And you know why you got it, Jake? Because you got it for The Mandalorian. And that is the show that drew people to Disney Plus
on my giant ass TV in my living room.
My point is, if the content was there, you wouldn't care what it was on.
But if it's on my phone in 3 minutes at a time, I promise you, it's not going to be the content.
All right, okay. This week in streaming, we talked about Trolls World Tour. Kevin pointed out the fact that it's opening, so families might want to check that out. Something else I want to mention, or Gabe also put this down in the show notes, and very smart, Parasite. Your Oscar winner, the Best Picture winner, Parasite, is making its way to Hulu. So if you held off for as long as you could and didn't want to see the latest film from Bong Joon-ho, now you have a chance to throw it on your streaming service. I think all 3 of us would recommend you check it out at the very least.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
The 3 of us didn't think that it was Best Picture worthy.
My second viewing of Parasite was a completely different experience. I don't think it was Best Picture, but it's definitely a film that's worth seeing. And if you can watch it twice, that's when you can really see the masterwork about what he was doing. I did not really grab it the first time. It didn't connect. But that second time, when I was a little more relaxed from it and just let it be, it was great. So that happened a couple times last year.
I'm happy it's coming on streaming because I have meant to catch up with it that second time. So I'm definitely going to check it out on Hulu.
It's very good.
With a lack of things coming to theaters, we have made a decision to bring some recommendations of films that are on streaming services to you guys. And I'm going to go first and let you know that this week, out of the blue, Brendan picked Robert Altman's Popeye, which was it's something he wanted to see. And we fired
I've never seen it.
And it is, for real?
I've never seen it.
It's super ambitious. It's really funny in today's day and age of remakes and reboots and going back to our childhood to lean onto nostalgia. Like, they put their best foot forward with that film. I mean, obviously they got Robin Williams to play Popeye. He is committed
Shelley
to
Duvall is perfect casting.
Shelley Duvall is as Olive Oyl. And they built a seaside town. Like, it's a great set. It's real. It's like watching it, I was reminded of just when movies invested in production.
Practical effects.
They built a town that he was able to go through. And then Altman just made it as quirky and weird as he could in all the different places. And there's a bit with a whale at the end, and it's they have a sweet pea, the baby, and it's really
the bad
weird.
Guy?
Bluto is the bad guy and Popeye's father, and I forget who plays Popeye's father. I think it's Burgess Meredith. Everyone's cloaked under such. Yes, I think the spinach is practical because they stuff it in his mouth at one point. They're making him eat it.
Does he drink a bunch of spinach at one
point?
Well,
he hates it. He hates spinach and he won't eat it. And his father force feeds spinach to him. And Robin Williams is so committed to the bit. He's got a corncob pipe the entire time. So he's eating spinach around the corncob pipe. It's really weird.
Oh, that's kind of, is it on
it's
Netflix?
Really weird. It's on Netflix. Yes. So you can watch Robert Altman's Popeye.
I always love the animated Popeye when his stick arm, and then he would drink the spinach, and his muscle would grow up like a square.
Yeah. It would move up and down his arm like a video game kind of thing. So it's unlike anything Altman has done prior to this. And if you love Robert Altman films, you're probably wondering why he did Popeye. It's a really weird choice for a director to take on material like this, but he poured everything that he could into it. And so if you haven't seen it in a really long time, it's one of those movies that was on HBO when I was a kid all the time. And we watched it constantly. We watched it almost weekly. So give it a shot. It's on Netflix. Jake, you got one?
Yeah, I watched The Platform on Netflix. And
nice.
Really quick, tight thriller. I know Kevin watched it as well, so Kevin, feel free to chime in. Quick 90 minutes. Really interesting idea. Very interesting premise. The set design behind this prison, which goes underground at every platform. It's very much a very open social commentary about this idea that we all consume more than we need. And if we all only consumed what we needed, there would be enough for everyone to go around. And it's this idea that there's this table of food that starts out at the very top of this prison and slowly is elevated, so it goes down level by level. And then like the prisoner, there's 2 prisoners on each floor, and they get like 2 minutes to eat as much food as they can before it goes to the next one. And every month they're shuffled around and they go to a different floor. So you never know. You almost sort of like, you're like, oh, I'm on floor 8. And so I really got to eat much now, because like in a month I could be on floor 180. And then there's not going to be any food when the table gets down to me.
Oh,
it's a really interesting premise. And it kind of continuously starts like revealing more and more rules as you go along. Great performances. It is in Spanish, but like we've said 1,000 times, just watch it and you kind of forget that you're doing it. I will say, without getting too much, of the ending sort of left me a little bit like, okay, all right, like that's interesting. It's I don't want to get into it too much, but really it's a quick 90-minute thriller. Brutal. Hard R, but absolutely worth a watch.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. I made the mistake of putting on The Platform when Laura and I were going to bed one night, and
it's not a good before bed movie.
Yeah, cannibalism started happening, and I was like, I can't really watch that before I go to
Probably
sleep.
Probably not a good dinner movie either.
Yeah. But honestly, it was very intriguing. We actually meant to finish it. I do want to finish it. I just kind of watched it at the worst time possible. I went to bed with those images, which was not fun. But it's a pretty nasty film, especially you know what's weird about it? The nastiest stuff for me was the eating, not even the violence. It was like the way they would
just
eat.
How they're like shoving food into their mouth. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the food already looks, by the time
that,
it gets to them, it's gross, and it's been like picked over food. It's like leftovers.
Imagine like 40 different groups of people going through your food. Yeah, Justin Theroux's down at the bottom, but imagine all of the food from 40 people above that has been picked apart. And so imagine getting a chicken wing that has like one sliver of chicken still left on it. You have to bite into after 10 people bit into it. It's like nasty.
Kev, do you have a nicer recommendation for us?
I do. I was gonna take this on a little more comedic route with Sin City.
Oh, nice.
No, just not comedic, but this is no question. I saw this 3 times opening weekend. It's streaming on Netflix. It's still one of the most astounding cinematic achievements I've experienced as a film fan. Rodriguez shooting the entire film essentially on green screen. One of the coolest featurettes ever. If you have the Blu-ray or the DVD, I've mentioned this in the show before, is the 12-minute sped up version, about 500% sped up, of the entire film without visual effects. So you'll see Mickey Rourke running on a treadmill when in the movie Marv is just walking across like a field.
So cool.
It's very cool. And I just think Rodriguez has always been that guy who, while Sin City is digital, the filmmaking of it is incredible. Like the practicality they put into it to make it look the way it does. And then the bit in the middle that Quentin Tarantino directs. So Tarantino, I believe it was the first time Tarantino ever professionally shot on digital. And I don't think he liked it. I remember reading a story about it.
Because you know what the trade was, right? You know what the trade that Rodriguez did? Didn't Rodriguez do the score for the second half of Kill Bill?
Right. I didn't know that those two were aligned. I didn't know
I thought it was a trade.
That's cool.
That they
I didn't know that.
Tarantino did like that scene from Sin City, and then Rodriguez did the score for the second half, which has a very sort of Western.
That's interesting. All right, last thing I'll say about it is
I'm not taking that bait.
If you do watch the Sin City movie and you want to know where Tarantino's scene start and begins, it's the scene with Clive Owen and Benicio del Toro in the car.
Oh, so good.
Del Toro has the gun in his head. It's a great scene, but Quentin directed that. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen Sin City, check it out. But after you're done, just watch the featurette because it'll blow your mind. The filmmaking process that Rodriguez went through to make Sin City. It is.
I love the bookend. I think that's
exists.
my favorite part of Sin City is the Josh Hartnett, the beginning and the end.
Yes.
That's my favorite part.
I got obsessed with it so much that the reason I put it in my underrated is I went out and bought all the first edition comics. So I have like the one-offs. I have like this some of the coolest Frank Miller stuff you'll ever see. It's so awesome. That movie's amazing.
Wait, did you just give away your underrated 2000s pick then?
No, I do. I don't know if Sin City. I still have the DVD as well. That's the one that came with the featurette. That's the one that has it. So the one Jake is holding up right there, that came with a copy of The Hard Goodbye, right? There should be a copy of The Hard Goodbye inside there, right?
Yep.
The actual Frank Miller graphic novel for Hard Goodbye. Yep, there it is.
I have a weird one with Bruce Willis and Jessica Alba on the cover.
That's the theatrical.
Well, we're movie fans, Sean.
Sin City was three Frank Miller books. It was Dame to Kill For was the sequel.
Oh, look at this one.
There you go.
Kevin, go right into your. This one has theatrical and recut, extended and unrated versions.
Ooh.
Well, now we're just measuring. Kevin, kick off on our underrated 2000s blend.
Jake, look, I forgot I had this. I thought I thought we threw this away.
Oh, look at you two.
Let him kiss.
This was this was one of my most prized possessions I ever had. There it is right there. The movie in high-speed green screen. And Gabe comes back. Right. We haven't moved on yet.
We gotta go.
We're going into our blend game. Underrated 2000s. Lots of great recommendations from the audience, but first we get to go. Jake, take us home.
My choice for underrated 2000s is the Darren Aronofsky film, The Fountain.
I almost went with that. Okay, but wait, I want to emphasize this to everybody too. This is from 2000 to 2009. We're still going to get one more decade out of this.
Right.
I think, theoretically.
Yeah,
okay.
So we
The
do
Fountain.
2010s.
Cool.
Yeah. The Fountain, I think, is one of the most beautiful,
so good,
heartbreaking, but also hopeful dissections of what it means to live and of what it means to die and to leave a legacy. I think the score and Hugh Jackman's performance, which unfortunately has been like reduced down to that meme where he's like looking up at the sky. It's one of the most beautifully filmed, most beautifully realized movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I almost feel like just maybe within the past few years, and maybe because like he hasn't put out, I guess he put out Mother. I'm trying to think of things he's like. Everyone's kind of gotten cold on Aronofsky a little bit. Yeah, Noah, I didn't think was great. Mother, I liked. But I feel like we're sort of kind of losing sight of how much of a genius Darren Aronofsky is, and I kind of feel like he needs to come back into the picture a little bit. But even when talking about the genius of Aronofsky, I feel like people don't talk about The Fountain enough. I asked. They
do The Wrestler or Black Swan,
or Requiem for a Dream.
Also, amazing films.
Yeah,
but
Clint Mansell's Fountain score.
Yes, it's one of the greatest scores of all time. But I asked Hugh Jackman one time, and about it's just with movies that are coming out on DVD, and a lot of times they find a second life. I said, what is a movie that you wish people would go back and discover? And I got to be honest with you, he said something that I couldn't remember what it was. And I said,
I know what he said.
No, okay. So wait, what? Because then I went back and said, what? But not The Fountain. And he goes, no, we made The Fountain for a very special, specific group of people, and those people love The Fountain. He goes, I made The Fountain knowing it was never going to be this $100 million movie. He goes, but whenever someone comes to me and tells me that they love The Fountain, I know exactly what kind of person they are. And it says a lot to me. So that actually kind of, yes, I do think it's an underrated movie, but that always kind of stuck with me that like, okay, maybe it is supposed to be this kind of like little gem that has this little club of people that love it and appreciate it. But if you've never seen it, it is the most gorgeous reflection of what it means to live and what it means to die and what it means to carry on an existence and what it means to not just exist, but to live in this world and do something. It's truly just a remarkable, remarkable film.
The Fountain, I want to say one thing about that because I have a very specific tie to that, and not in the movie itself, but I'll never forget, because growing up, Requiem for a Dream and Pi were such big deals to me as a kid. And so Darren Aronofsky came to Georgetown to do a screening of The Fountain and do a Q&A.
Cool.
And then after the Q&A was done, we went to the hotel bar, and he bought us all a round of Blue Moon. It was the first time I ever had Blue Moon in my entire life was because of Darren Aronofsky. And I will never forget it. And Jake, do you know that all the background images in the fountain, the ones that are outside in space, are actual microscopic imagery.
Yeah.
They're not CGI. That is
It's
that
gorgeous.
is microorganisms like going back and forth. That's how they created it. It's so cool.
Kev, what's your pick?
I went with Grindhouse, but the full experience.
Great answer.
entirety.
Great answer. Which is the only way it should exist.
Yeah, and oddly, so it's funny. I battled between this and Watchmen. I was going back and
I
forth
also
between
thought about
those
Watchmen,
two.
but also a good answer.
But Grindhouse, why I consider it underrated is because the movie bombed in theaters. No one saw it. When they eventually put the movie out on DVD and Blu-ray, they split it into two films between Planet Terror and Death Proof. So a lot of people, see, that's what confused me about it. A lot of people rented like Planet Terror without the context of what Grindhouse was. And it probably made no sense. You know what I mean?
And
like
there were no
you would go to a
trailers.
Right.
Like
so
the fake
this
trailers.
version... Yeah, this is the version you have to get. If anybody watching, it's the Grindhouse Collector's Edition. You can actually watch it the way it was seen in theaters. It starts with, obviously, the Machete trailer. Then it goes into Planet Terror. Then you have the three greatest trailers ever in the middle. Edgar Wright's Edgar Wright's Don't. Yeah, Don't. And then Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then Werewolves of the SS, that was Rob Zombie. And then you go into Tarantino's Death Proof. And so for me... I agree with you, and love both movies complement each other. It's an experience, the Grindhouse experience. So the reason why I say it's underrated is because when people talk about Quentin Tarantino, Death Proof is like a forgotten film of his, and it's truly an incredible film, which is very, 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 very much paying homage to Vanishing Point, which is a great movie as well. So Grindhouse, if you have a chance, if you have only seen Planet Terror or Death Proof, and you want the full-blown experience, it's awesome. It's a really cool experience.
They press screened Grindhouse, the full Grindhouse experience
for
us here in Charlotte. And I was the only press member who showed up. I got to watch it in the theater all by myself.
For a Tarantino Robert Rodriguez movie?
Yeah. We only have 5 or 6 people in town who do this anyway, even back then. And I was the only one who showed up for that one.
First time I ever interviewed Tarantino. I was
really?
the radio show that I was interning at the station for had Quentin on for a phoner, and I begged them to come in and be a part of the interview. I was only on Fridays for movie reviews. So I wrote all their questions, and then they said, okay, you can ask one at the end or whatever it was, and I got to ask him. He was in the middle of writing Inglourious Bastards, and I've told you guys this before, but I asked him if he thinks he'll ever top the True Romance monologue, and he goes, I just finished writing this World War II film called Inglourious Bastards, and I think I might have topped it. Like, just the timestamp of that will always freak me out because Bastards is like one of my favorite movies ever.
And
but
then years later, he told
we became best friends with him.
His Bastards monologue is the best. All right, my pick is a serious downer. And I hate to sort of bring the game down on a downbeat note, but mine is United 93. Paul Greengrass's film.
Great movie.
100%. That's the best pick of all three of these. Sorry, Jake. I love your pick too. That's perfect. Sorry.
It is a masterpiece that no one wants to watch. And I can't. It's hard for me to argue with you. But it's the most visceral, one of the most visceral experiences I've ever had in the theater. There's a lot of talk here about how bad the coronavirus is and how it's the equivalent of Pearl Harbor and 9/11, but I don't think we're ever in our lifetimes really going to, I hope to God we don't, but experience the horror and the shock that came with September 11th. Like, that's always going to be something that haunts our generation. And Paul Greengrass figures out a way to tell a story from that day that relives the day, but still finds a way to tell a heroic story of the passengers on United 93 who have to figure out over the course of this flight what's happening. And then storm the cockpit, essentially. And it's done in Paul Greengrass style, which is a lot of handhelds, milking the tension. It has one of the most amazing scenes, two, and I'm going to spoil them for you if you haven't yet seen the movie, but I have to talk about them. One being when the second plane hits the tower, he chooses to show it from he's in the air traffic control room, which these guys are the geniuses who control flights are trying to figure out in the moment what the hell is going on, and they don't know, and it's terrifying because we have the hindsight of knowing everything that's going on, but you're watching these guys try to figure out, like, why aren't these planes responding and what's going on? And then you see over their shoulder in the far distance the second plane hit, and that's
the real footage.
Oh, is it really? Oh, I didn't even know that.
So what he did was, I'm so happy you brought that up, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that is one of the most astounding scenes I've ever seen. And from what I can gather, if you watch the scene closely, he shoots it kind of overexposed a bit. That way, the actual footage of the day matches his film photography.
Wow!
And I think I'm almost certain that footage is the actual plane. That I remember specifically talking to someone about that. Look it up, but that is the footage, and he blended it together by overexposing. I think it looks very well done. I mean, it's not. You know, I remember it's hard to
going
watch.
Going into that film. I remember thinking like, how are you going to make this movie interesting when everybody knows what happens? Like, I always have that sort of question in the back of my mind when you talk about real events. And I was also in the back of my mind thinking like, how are you going to end this movie? Like, how does this movie come to a close? And it's one of the most shocking and satisfying endings I can remember seeing in my lifetime. And then to see that movie underperform just bummed me out because it's so well done. Like, it's such a masterpiece.
But he got a Best Director nomination, didn't he?
I think he did.
He didn't get Best Picture, but he got Director nominated. Okay.
All right. Well, then that's fair. And again, I can't make an argument to anybody who just says to me, I don't want to watch a 9/11 drama. I get that. I understand. But if you are willing to sit through a film, it's expertly crafted and is such a moving film, and so I'm picking that for mine.
Sean, do you know why that's a great pick? Here's why. In 1993, the reason why the film is so great is because it was a movie that had to be made because because the stories about 9/11, when you talk about 9/11, obviously everyone talks about the towers and the Pentagon, but this story wasn't, it was told obviously, but it wasn't told to the extent of those stories, and understandably, because obviously you're thinking about all the different things that are happening. There's so much to cover. But in this case, I think Greengrass gave a voice to those people that were on that plane that in the film obviously took the plane down and kept it from wherever it was going. That's what the film is discussing. And now we don't really ever know for sure where that plane was.
Wasn't it going to go to the White House?
That was a theory. In the movie, they actually don't they have an actual visual of the Capitol or something like that? They actually show where they're going in the movie. But to Sean's point, the reason why that film is so important, it's underrated by default because it's a movie that no one wants to see. Yeah. And it becomes underrated because no one really wants to live it. See, I argue, and I think Sean would argue, and I think Jake would argue too, that it's an important film to watch because it's a story that not a lot of people talk about. And I think that it will give you such an interesting... That day was so tragic, but there was also so much hope that came from that day. And that story speaks to humanity. And while the nastiness of what happened on that day happened, humanity will always overpower and overcome. And I think that's what the movie's really saying is like, let us tell you a positive story about this. Even though people died, look at these people and what they were doing and willing to do to save people in their country. It was pretty wild.
Unbelievable.
Great story. Yeah.
Kyle David Perry and Ashton Gleckman said Frank Darabont's The Mist.
Great
Definitely
movie.
underrated. Garbin Boyle said Constantine. Thomas Manning said The Brothers Bloom, going back into Ryan Johnson's filmography. Someone else also said Brick, too, if I remember. Both of them really, really good. And Karos Soto said Sunshine by Danny Boyle. I like Sunshine a lot. I don't like its ending. And I don't remember what I don't like about it, but I just remember loving it. And then I thought it kind of went off the rails. I kind of revisit that too, because I love Danny Boyle. And I just don't remember what I didn't like about the ending. And now I kind of want to revisit it and see. All right. I peeked and saw next week's Blend Game. Fun one. It's going to be a fun one. Hashtag Tony Scott Blend. We are going to celebrate the films of Tony Scott.
Why do you always pick one that I definitely have an answer to? It's like
I got it too. I'm ready.
Shoot, I know Kevin's already. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we put a stipulation that you can't pick it?
All right.
Because yours is so obvious.
True Romance. So let's let people can pick it. I will go further than True Romance. So just know True Romance is my ultimate, but I'm going to pretend like it's not number one. Okay.
Well, now you're probably going to pick mine.
No,
but if we ever get to like McTiernan, I would not pick Die Hard. Like that would be a rule, right? Yeah, that's a rule.
You'd pick Last Action Hero because it's awesome.
Oh, I might actually pick Last Action Hero. All right, so you can play along on social media or email us at realblend@cinemablend.com. We are always soliciting reviews from you guys. Last time I checked, our iTunes domestic account was sitting at 99 reviews. Now, Gabe said if you take the international numbers, we're at like 126 or 127. But you guys got to understand that the OCD in me is really, it's eating away at me. Like, I almost didn't sleep the other night because it's just sitting at 99. And now, if it jumps past to like 102, it's not going to be satisfying. Like, I need to just see that 100 just for a minute and process it and then move on. But right now we're sitting at 99, and one of them
You shouldn't have said that out loud, dude.
I know. And one of them's from Deanna too, who says fun and interesting. I recently found this podcast when looking for reviews on a movie, and let me tell you, this one is awesome. I'm currently back binging all episodes between the new ones and loving it. You guys mix your reviews with interesting stories and fantastic interviews. The interview with Chad Stahelski was so interesting. A real behind the scenes of how much goes into creating, choreographing specific scenes. The dog stories he told us was incredible about how they have to spend like weeks with the stunt guys. I still think about that. I really enjoyed that you all give your own reviews, even if it doesn't match the others. Believe me, that happens more often than not. Keep up the great job, guys. Don't judge me because I haven't seen it yet, but Dunkirk. All right, rectify that, Deanna, too.
I'm
P.S.
envious.
Thanks, Kevin, for getting our Holden back. Reboot wouldn't have been the same without him, and I agree with Jake and Kevin. The Rise of Skywalker was a fast, fun, and nostalgic ride that's led by Adam Driver. Well, Deanna, we were doing okay for a little while there, weren't we? We were doing
Thank you for your message.
For a little while. We'll be back next week with some other fun interviews that we're lining up while we're all in quarantine. You can listen to us you can go back and listen to the whole back catalog. You can follow us on social media at Jake's Takes, at Kevin McCarthy TV, at Sean_O'Connell.
Hey,
the
Sean.
show is at RealBlend. Yes, Kevin.
I just got a text message from
Wait, I have a pun I want to throw out there too.
From Johnny Depp.
Don't we have to go?
Johnny Depp wants to include he wants to go back and do a 90s blend, underrated 90s blend, Johnny Depp.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so Johnny Depp wanted to chime in on underrated 90s blend from a couple weeks ago. He wants to do Primal Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Really good one.
Thank you, Johnny.
Really good one.
Thanks, buddy.
Yes, and I don't know if you know this, Kev, but when I interviewed Hugh Jackman, I also asked him about his favorite Kate Winslet movie. Do you know what Hugh Jackman's favorite Kate Winslet movie is?
Hugh Jackman's
drop us a review on iTunes.
Favorite
and
Kate Winslet film.
Go sign up for the Facebook community page as well too.
Is there a holiday? Is it not the?
No, it's The Fountain Between Us.
That's actually really good because it actually rhymes with mountain. That's really good.
Well, that's why I did it.
I know, but thank you. But there was an extra layer of funniness in that one, so thank you for doing it.
All right. Until next week, and now you can see us all say...
Dunkirk!
Oh, there it is. Dunkirk. Nice.